I transferred to a new college this semester, and since dorms were full, I booked a room in a private hostel just off campus. It wasn't fancy. Cracked walls, old furniture, and a constant smell of disinfectant. But it was cheap and close enough to class. The manager, an old woman with cloudy eyes, gave me a key and said, "You're in room 204. Don't worry about the noise next door. It's just the pipes." That didn't sound too weird at first, until I realized something. There wasn't a room next door. Room 204 was at the end of the hall. The wall beside me should have led to open air. Still, every night around 2 a.m., I heard muffled knocking coming from behind that wall. Slow, deliberate taps, like someone was trying to get my attention. The first few nights, I ignored it. Told myself it was just water pipes, like she said. But then the knocking started following a pattern. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more, almost like Morse code. On the 5th night, I finally decided to knock back. Once, twice. Then the wall answered. The next morning, I went downstairs and asked the manager about the room layout. She looked nervous and said, "That side of the building was sealed off years ago, after the fire." I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. But when I checked online, I found an old news article. Hostel fire kills student in room 205. Body never recovered. That night, I pressed my ear to the wall again. Silence. Then, from inside the wall, right next to my ear, I heard a whisper. Finally, someone answered. I moved out the next morning, but sometimes, when I pass by that old building, I swear I can still hear faint knocking from the upper floor. 3 slow knocks, asking to be let out. I stayed in the same hostel last semester. Not in room 204, but across the hall, in 201. If you've ever lived there, you know the bathrooms are shared. 3 cubicles, 1 flickering light, and mirrors that always seem off. The mirrors were old and cloudy, like they'd been through a fire or something. Whenever I stood there brushing my teeth late at night, I'd catch a glimpse of movement behind me, even when I was alone. I told myself it was just my reflection catching the light wrong. One night around 1:30 a.m., I walked into the bathroom half asleep. The hallway was silent, but the air felt colder than usual. As I stood at the sink, I noticed something strange. In the mirror, one of the stall doors behind me was slowly swinging open. I turned around. Nothing. All the stalls were closed. When I looked back at the mirror, the door was open again, and there was a girl standing inside the stall. She wasn't moving, just staring. Long black hair, pale face, eyes that looked burned out. I spun around in panic. The stall was empty. When I looked back one last time, the mirror was fogged up, and written across the glass, with a wet fingertip, were the words, "Don't stay in 204. I ran out and told the manager. She just stared at me and said, "You shouldn't go in there at night. That mirror isn't supposed to be there anymore." The next day, the entire bathroom was sealed off with a metal lock. They said it was for renovation. But through the vents, if you listen closely at night, you can still hear the sound of running water and someone softly weeping, like she's still trying to warn whoever checks in next. I used to work as a night watchman at that same hostel, the one everyone says is haunted. To me, it was just a job. I didn't believe in ghosts, but after what I saw last month, I'm not so sure anymore. My shift started at 11 p.m. I'd walk the halls every hour, checking the lights, the locks, and making sure the students were quiet. Most nights were boring, until I started noticing strange things near the second floor. Room 204, for example, was always locked. The manager told me it had been condemned after the fire, but sometimes around 2 a.m., the door would be slightly open. I'd shine my flashlight inside. Empty room, burned wallpaper, broken window. Then I'd close it. But when I came back 15 minutes later, it would be open again. One night, I heard crying coming from the bathroom. When I went to check, it stopped instantly. The mirror above the sink was dripping wet, even though the taps were off. And written across the fogged glass was that same message everyone whispers about. Don't stay in 204. That's when I decided to check the records. Old files, hidden in the manager's office. There it was, a report from 5 years ago. Female student found dead in room 204 after a fire caused by faulty wiring. Body unaccounted for. Mirror fragments recovered mirror fragments. That's when it hit me. The bathroom mirror wasn't new. It was made from the broken pieces of the mirror in room 204. That night, I went upstairs one last time. The door to 204 was wide open. Inside, everything was dark except for a faint reflection in a piece of shattered glass leaning against the wall. And in that reflection, I saw her, the same girl from the bathroom, standing behind me. The next morning, they found the door locked from the inside. My flashlight was on the floor, and carved into the burnt wood just above the doorknob were 3 words, written as if by a fingertip. Let me out. When I first moved into the hostel, the manager looked at me strangely after checking my name. She paused for a moment, frowned, then said softly, "You've stayed here before, haven't you?" I laughed and told her this was my first time. But she didn't smile. She just handed me the key and whispered, "If anything feels familiar, leave immediately." I thought she was just being creepy for fun. Until the second night. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of someone walking in the hallway. Slow, dragging footsteps, as if someone was limping. When I peered through the peephole, I saw a girl standing outside my door. She looked exhausted, hair wet, clothes burned around the edges. She knocked once and said, "You're in my room." I froze. Room 206. That was my room. I didn't answer. After a few seconds, she walked away and vanished around the corner. The next morning, I told the cleaner about it. She looked terrified and said, "That's not possible. The girl who stayed in 206 died 2 years ago. In the fire, I thought she was joking, until I went down to the office that evening to pay my rent." The manager looked pale. She slid a folder toward me. Inside was an old tenant form. Same name, same photo, same signature. Mine. She whispered, "You already checked out. 2 years ago, after the fire." That night, I packed my things and ran. But sometimes when I dream, I see the hostel again. The same cracked walls, the same key in my hand, and someone knocking from the other side of the door whispering, "It's your turn to leave."